many people that are still here, it's no big secret that I got my start doing Trevor Henderson lore. Indeed, it was the genesis of my channel and what led to me being very popular. However, when I switched over to doing ASMR, I left my Trevor Henderson side of my fan base to the wayside and ignored them for quite a bit. I still put out regular videos every now and again, but generally I switched to doing Five Nights at Freddy's, Star Wars, My Little Pony, and much later on, Hell of a Boss, and / Hazbin Hotel, and even Harry Potter. But there's a fascination that I've always had with the world of Trevor Henderson that never really fully left me. And tonight, we're going to investigate that fascination. Hello, welcome to my channel, and if you've been here before, welcome back. I'd like to welcome you again to another video by the host. The host will be taking over ASMR for right now, as the agent couldn't really be present. But regardless, we're going to look at a few creatures tonight. Ones that have a particular thing in common. They're all ambush predators that rely on slightly different methods of ambush. A few of them are pretty scary. Well, what am I saying? All of them are pretty scary. This is the world of Trevor Henderson, after all. An ambush predator is a type of animal that relies not on active hunting, but relies on a tactic of luring prey towards it, be it by disguise or cleverly hiding themselves. As someone who studies nature, you should not be new to the topic. And if you are, then that makes this world more interesting and adds another layer of understanding. Ambush predators generally conserve all their energy and use it for hiding to lure other animals to them. It's quite effective for many animals that do not really have the capabilities for long-distance hunting or the capabilities to travel for a very long time. In that case, it's also no secret that some creatures in Trevor Henderson's world would also adapt and evolve to use such means. 3 well-known ambush hunters in the Trevor Henderson universe. And we will discover them in depth. And one more thing, you might not necessarily need to watch what's going on. Sure, you can look at pictures of the creatures that I throw on screen, but you don't need to watch fully to follow along. I will explain everything to you, and I will explain about the creatures in question. There will not be much to show on the screen anyway other than the images. But if you wish to look at the images, then I shall do so. I shall also put on relaxing rain in the background, and some light thunder to set the mood. Something that makes you feel oddly cozy, safe to be inside. I'd rather be inside than dealing with these monsters. But just be thankful they aren't real. Or are they? Again, like any good mythos, we don't exactly know. But enough with the sinister sentiments. Let us begin, shall we? If you like this video, please hit subscribe and hit the like icon. The agent has noticed that a majority of you who watch his videos are not necessarily subscribed. So, if you want a more spooky vibe to relax to for your ASMR content, then I'll be sure to make more of these for him. I enjoy doing it. Now, before we begin, please get comfortable. Perhaps find a place to relax your shoulders, loosen your arms, and settle in. This will not be too long of a video, as we are only exploring 3 creatures, but they remain very interesting examples. interesting examples of creatures that let their food come to them. So, let us begin. Now, rather unfortunately, most of the dates for Trevor's artworks have fallen into obscurity. Be it a combination of bad wiki articles and genuine ambiguity of when posts were made, we generally lose ideas of when these images were posted. But all we know for sure is that it remains Trevor's artwork, despite the attempts of fan bases like the SCP Foundation and the Backrooms to try to hijack certain ideas. They do the same with Leo Vincible. The SCP fanbase has a history of stealing other people's artwork, and I'm likely going to get some of their fanboys in the comments. I've done so prior. But what we do know about the extra side is that it's quite a fascinating creature. It's a rather unusual entry in Trevor Henderson's mythos, considering it looks vastly different from other creatures he's usually drawn. Other creatures Trevor draws usually have a more grotesque look to them, and have a more distinctive design. But moreover, a lot of them tend to blend together. That's why I don't think I'll be studying every single Trevor creature ever, because if we were to do that, well, quite frankly, some episodes would be rather boring. There's not a lot to talk about with a lot of them, but there is a lot to talk about with the extra slide. A piece of playground equipment with eyes, mouth, and hands, disguising itself as something seemingly innocent, a playground for children, is an interesting concept. And it's one of the more interesting entries in Trevor's mythos. Now generally, it is not well known when this post was made, but the original caption underneath the image is as follows. Sometimes, when I walk home at night, I walk by the playground. Sometimes there is an extra slide that isn't present during the day. This caption tells us a lot of different things. For one, it tells us that this anonymous user is able to walk home at night. And that's not very helpful information, I admit. But it does tell us more about this creature's behavior. The creature is not present during the day. This tells us that the extra slide is perhaps a nocturnal hunter, wanting to prey on those when others are not present, to not draw attention from its own predators. A rather interesting tactic. A slide at a playground, a place made for children, is a rather devious and sinister place for a monster to hide. Children are weak and defenseless creatures, so they would be easy meal for a creature such as the extra slide, especially if they can tempt the children to slide down it. The interesting thing we can notice about this image is the hands, or feet, or appendages of some kind at the bottom of the extra slide. This must be for mobility, and a way to move around from location to location without looking too peculiar. I imagine that this photo was taken mid-move. The extra slide might have still been on the move somehow. And the reason why that makes sense is because if it were to show up randomly with this type of look, it would draw all sorts of suspicion. And drawing suspicion is not exactly something that an ambush predator wants. An ambush predator such as the extra slide would want to remain as inconspicuous as possible. It would better lure prey towards it. Now, admittedly, there isn't a whole lot to talk about with the extra slide, other than its intriguing design and its supposed habits. It is believed it inhabits the first world, one of the 3 worlds of Trevor Henderson's. It is not a giant, and it doesn't coexist with humans in harmony, so it is generally accepted to be on Trevor's version of Earth. Or Hell, if you believe the theory. Trevor's version of Earth is supposed to be just the middle world. Some people believe it is in the definition of Hell, the mysterious 4th world, a purgatory of only monsters. I do not believe this is the case, considering an ambush predator is a far more undercover type approach for a monster such as this. And in hell, children would not really be present. The extra slide has been theorized to perhaps be a relative to the smile room. It is an interesting possibility, considering the similarities of their mouth. I doubt they are the same creature, personally. Some people have suggested they are. But the smile room's habits are very different from the extra slide's, admittedly. For one, the extra slide is mobile, while the smile room requires the assistance of a dedicated host. Perhaps the playground is the host. There's no way for us to really know. Now, while there wasn't admittedly a lot to talk about with the extra slide, there was a lot to talk about with its cousin, the smile room. The smile room is an unusual case in Trevor Henderson lore that has multiple photos to establish its existence, and even multiple photos to continue a storyline. It is associated with an actual disappearance and 2 canonical deaths. And unusual for the series. Generally, the fates of the anonymous photographers are left unknown. The smile room remains a unique creature in that regard, having claimed the lives of at least 2, being confirmed. 2 young boys entering a funhouse room called the Smile Room, which is where the creature gets its name. Now, generally, the accepted story of the Smile Room is as follows. A group of 3 friends went into Neb's Fun World Bowling, a fun center in Oshawa, Ontario. And in that place, there was a sort of escape room called the Smile Room. 2 of the friends went inside. The 3rd friend waited for them outside, but they didn't seem to come back after hours. And after waiting for hours, the 3rd friend decided to go inside, only to find no sign of the 2 friends. The 2 young boys had completely vanished, leaving only their cell phones. On the cell phone was the image, and the caption below is a clipping of a news report. 2 teenagers go missing after breaking into the Neb's Fun World Bowling in Oshawa, Ontario. A friend finds a cell phone while looking for them and turns it into the police. After finding this photo, upon investigation, the Smile Room is not a part of the building. But what about the photo that the friend turned in? Well, that's the interesting part. The interesting part about the Smile Room is it shows a little entrance to a little escape room, but with one very obvious difference. There's a large pair of human teeth with red gums. The teeth look nearly human and are rather sharp, clearly something predatory. They're angled in such a way that they can form a clean sort of lock to keep anything from escaping. The teeth aren't really all that sharp on every single tooth, leaving some people to believe that the Smile Room doesn't really have a need to chew. It merely uses those teeth to lock those that walk inside in it, so that it is then free to eat. It has multiple photos to its name. Now, there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason as to how the Smile Room can appear. Besides that incident in Eb's Fun World, there was a close call. The Smile Room tried to appear at the end of a work hour. A very good opportune time to appear, considering many humans are leaving work and are anxious to get home. Unfortunately, it seems to have had a mishap and appeared at the top of the stairwell when everyone else was already at the bottom. It was part of a room that nobody would even go towards anyways, leaving it in kind of a predicament. The smile room was stuck in its singular location, not exactly able to move, until it was ready for transport again. What determines how and why the smile room should move is it uses one of its victims it consumes to move around. This entity has been called the smile room host, and takes the form of a humanoid figure with multiple teeth lining its body. We discovered this by an image. It is believed that this host has had the smile room moved from location to location, scouting out viable places to gain a lot of food, but it doesn't seem to always work in the smile room's favor. Unlike the extra side, that at least has an appearance that can continue to allure children, so long as they are interested in using the slide, the smile room seems to make errors as to where it wants to appear. It appeared in an area where it was never going to eat anyone, and sometimes the places it appears in are quite bizarre. There's another interesting photo that shows it somehow being in a chimney area at the top of an alleyway. How it got that far is quite mysterious, but we do see a method as to how it can help pull prey towards it, and perhaps how it uses its host. The photo in question is on a discarded cell phone that belonged to a missing teenager, and we can see in the photo very clearly what happened to that teenager. They became another host of the smile room, as the smile room used in the travel around. Somehow it had the unfortunate habit of appearing on a roof. I do so hate it when that happens. I would be rather inconvenienced if I wanted a fresh meal, and I appeared in an area very far away from any food to speak of whatsoever. This makes the smile room an imperfect predator, and perhaps it is able to store multiple food at a time. Perhaps that is why the two boys were not dead. I theorize that it immediately holds on to them until it needs to digest. That way, it can keep a fresh store of food in case mishaps like this happen, as the creature seems to not fully understand human society and how to fully blend in. It understands small basics, making itself into the smile room to try to be appealing to those who enter the fun location, and it probably learned this by looking at the names of other exhibits and other halls around. But it doesn't seem to understand the full logistics of the way human buildings are designed. Perhaps it will learn in time. Perhaps this signals at the fact that it is a much more new creature, newer to the world in this mythos than some others. We can only speculate, and it'd be difficult to know for sure. You could say a common theme of this video that you've been noticing are creatures that disguise themselves as normal everyday objects, be it playground equipment or part of a room. And for our next creature, we're going to take a break from the Trevor Henderson mythos and take a look at the creations by Leo Invincible. It's understandable why to do so, because they seem to be inextricably linked. Leo Invincible has made several of his own takes on creatures that could reasonably exist within the Trevor Henderson lore. And as a concept, they aren't all that different. The one we'll be looking at is one that many probably already know: the Traineater. The Traineater got popular beyond just being a Leo Invincible creation, and is now arguably an iconic part of internet cryptid lore. It is a truly fascinating creation, because we don't have a lot of images of it, yet we have a lot of different theories as to how it works. It's a very strange-looking creature, and is instantly very distinct from Trevor's artwork. Leo's creature has multiple eyeballs and a mouth, very similar to that of Trevor's, but quite different. It's red and done in a more almost clay-like style. Inside the mouth there is a humanoid-looking creature, looking almost dead. The theory behind the Traineater is that it disguises itself as normal trains. An easy way to get a buffet for an animal. People who take commutes day to day are quite numerous and can fill up trains very quickly. The train itself is actually part of the Traineater's body, and it can flood it very quickly with digestive fluids and stop allowing people on or off whenever it pleases. Now, generally, this would arouse lots of suspicion when people mysteriously go missing. So, the Traineater has various different methods it employs to keep those who enter it unaware. Many of them act as normal everyday commuter trains, actually doing work, ferrying passengers back and forth. It might seem strange to let certain passengers leave, but this actually makes a lot of sense. It does its job well to avoid suspicion, and so that when rush hour strikes and everybody is returning home from work, it can get to the biggest load possible and satisfy its hunger for basically an entire day, perhaps even more, depending on the capacity of the train. Now, Traineaters can attach themselves to certain trains, and there's a reason why they do this. It's where they get their name. They consume trains to take the form of them. You can imagine their body being clay-like for this reason. It's a flexible membrane that can encase the entire train within it. A very clever way of being able to expand and surround the train in a rather interesting fashion. Doing this allows it to not make any mistakes with what it scans, as it's basically just feeding the same train. It's utilizing the same train after all, so not many mistakes will be made. And if it eats a train that's very specific to that rail line, then it's not likely to encounter much problem. Now, this thing would mostly be willing to prey in the subway network, so it's reasonable that its eyes are bright yellow to aid its night vision. Those tunnels are very dark after all. And it would be rather unfortunate to crash into another train. Traineaters actually have a high casualty rate among other creatures, and that is simply because they do not understand the train operating tables. Sometimes there's incidents where Traineaters end up on tracks and get crashed into by other locomotives. A rather unfortunate thing for a creature to go through. Perhaps it should have studied the times tables. Then again, one cannot be certain whether or not it can actually read. It stands to reason with that many eyes, it should be rather decent. But then again, those are the eyes of a predator, not the eyes of an intelligent being. It's intelligent enough, but those eyes are mostly for night vision. Its intelligence comes in understanding the role it plays in gathering more food.